welcome back. So today we're talking about scenes from a marriage, and I'm excited. I feel like everything good is finally coming back. I feel happy, I feel inspired, and it's time to get fall fine. So Scenes from a Marriage stars Jessica Chastain and Oscar Isaac, and it is based on a Swedish mini-series by the same name. Essentially, the series explores love, marriage, divorce, monogamy, passion, desire, all these sort of interesting topics through the lens of this American couple. And my first impression of the series is that I'm excited for the conversations we're about to have. Whether you're married, not married, a relationship voyeur, so you have no experience but you got something to say, you can say it now. So the first episode, Innocence and Panic, was appropriately titled because we meet Mira and Jonathan on a breaking point, on the verge of a breaking point. So there's a decision that's made at the end of the episode that pretty much accelerates their downfall. And so what I liked about the show, I like the characters, I like the actors. Everybody here is very strong and very easy to watch. The pacing is quite interesting because this is a show that, a lot of information is coming at you quite quickly. And this is to help with the pacing, right? So things are gonna happen and they're gonna happen quickly. And I like how they introduce Mira and Jonathan to us, not just through dialogue, but also through body language. So the episode starts off with this interview. So Jonathan basically agreed to help the student with her dissertation about how evolving gender norms are affecting monogamous relationships. And the questions she asks them are questions that you wouldn't dare ask anyone. Like, these are questions that you think about asking people, but you would never ask. So from this interview, we get a lot of information, not just through the sort of answers that they're giving, but through their body language. And this body language helps us contrast Mira and Jonathan quite quickly in terms of who they are and who is, in terms of where they stand in their relationship. We learn a lot about Mira and Jonathan right away. Mira is the primary provider. She makes most of the money. She works at a tech firm. And it seems like there's some tension between the two. And Jonathan works in academia. I think he said he teaches philosophy. He takes care of the child for the most part. And he seems to also have a chip on his shoulder for not being the primary provider, right? Like, I think at one point he said, if only academia paid as much as tech, And she kind of looks at him and she makes a comment about how she's, she went on maternity leave and she's still paying for it. Like, there's all these kind of subtle hints that, things are not looking that great. And throughout the interview, Mira looks like she wants to leave. Like, she's uncomfortable, she's done. She at one point just turns to him and says, "Can we go?" And he's just like, it's almost over. And again, she did not agree to this interview. And not only that, she didn't think it would be this long, right? Like, they're getting asked a lot of very intrusive questions. And these are not questions she wants to answer, especially, when we find out what's bothering her by the end of the episode. And Mira and Jonathan have been together for quite some time. And the story of how they met is super interesting. So they met in college, and how they see each other is totally just in contrast. So I guess Jonathan was like the Virgin Mary, and Mira was this campus celebrity. They met when they took an English seminar together, and at the time they couldn't be like further apart. Like, John kind of describes her as somebody so outside his circle, somebody that he couldn't even possibly imagine being near, just because she was just like this unattainable human. And Mira we get kind of an insight into her past, right? So before she met Jonathan, she was in a series of very bad relationships. And it seems like Jonathan was like a safe haven. And the way they came to be was that I guess Jonathan was on her MySpace page, and he noticed that she was moving to the same city as him, and he offered assistance. And they kind of became roommates, and they became so comfortable with one another that people just assumed they were married. And they just decided to get married. And at one point, the interviewer asks, like, "Hey, who initiated the relationship?" And they're both looking at each other like, I guess both of us. And that's such a weird question, because if you ask anybody who initiated the relationship, like who chased who, no one will ever say themselves, right? You're gonna be like, "Oh, it was them," or like, "Oh, it was kind of mutual," but you're never gonna say it was you. So that was a very awkward question, and their response to it was quite accurate. But the most interesting part of this entire conversation is when she asks, what makes a successful marriage? And Jonathan's answer was very appropriate, because there's a lot of shows like this now where, you know, it's about first world problems, and how essentially it is these first world problems that tear people apart, because people no longer have the patience or the discipline to deal with one another. And he kind of, you know, addresses that. He's like, first world problems are why people have commitment issues. There's self-help books. There's this kind of billion-dollar industry that convinces you that, like, you know, you deserve better or you could do better. Kind of makes a comment saying that people have these irrational expectations that relationships should be constantly passionate and, you know, sexual and energetic, when in fact that this is just a novelty. Like, there's no reality to any of this. And his view on relationships is that actually it should be a platform where both of you can grow as individuals. And the bit about passion, like, you could see her looking at, like, Mira's body language was not, she didn't fully agree with him. She just kind of looked at him like, yeah, that thing about passion, right? But I did agree with Jonathan's answer. It was a very nice answer. I mean, there's what you think you want and there's what you want and what you need, right? And essentially Jonathan's comment is that people are no longer able to differentiate between the two. And Mira's answer, I'm not going to say was the total opposite, but was in tension to Jonathan, right? She says that, and she only gives her answer after, when he's not in the room, right? Like, she kind of freely, because throughout the interview, she's sitting there, she's trying to, like, get through it as fast as possible, but when she realizes this is going to go on for much longer than it needed to, she just kind of relaxes, right? And her view on relationships is that it's like a delicate equilibrium where both people have to keep the balance. And I think that's true. One person is doing more to keep the balance than the other, then you should just kind of let it die. And she says something interesting, like, at the beginning everything is great and fantastic and you think that nothing can hurt you, and at the end you realize everything can hurt you. And I think the point that she's trying to make is that she doesn't feel very secure in her relationship, and more so that being in this relationship might actually be making her weaker. Like, that's kind of that's what I kind of got out of her answer. And then this interviewer, I don't know how much longer she goes on for. Like, she just keeps asking more and more intrusive questions. And then it gets into, like, have you all been monogamous your whole life? And this is when it transitions into this chaotic dinner scene. But that interview scene was good because you see that Mira, like, something's bothering her. You know, at first you're like, maybe she's just annoyed. But as the interview goes on, you realize, like, there's something else going on. Well, Jonathan seems totally relaxed. You know, he doesn't seem as, like, you know, as tense. So it cuts away to this dinner scene, and again, here's where, like, the pacing of the show becomes even more, you know, like, things just kind of come at you. At first, you're like, oh, this is, like, lovely. You have two couples, they're talking, this is going to be chill. And then this conversation just goes left. So we're introduced to Kate and Peter. It seems like Kate broke up with one of her boyfriends, and she's angry because her husband doesn't have any sympathy for her, and they're just kind of airing out their dirty laundry in front of Mira and Jonathan. And this whole conversation was just chaotic. There was a lot to unpack. I'm sure there's things you guys could comment on. I was overwhelmed, and I think at one point Mira has to, like, literally walk, you know, they got to separate the two couples. And Kate and Mira have an interesting conversation because Mira's point of view, like, I don't know if we're going to see this couple again. Like, I suspect they were just kind of a foreshadowing device to show us kind of what's in Mira and Jonathan's future. Like, they're not going to work out either. But Mira basically sees her friend as desperately holding on to her husband for no reason. And that the reason that they're in this kind of open relationship is for Peter to justify his cheating. And Kate kind of defends herself. She's like, no, not really. Like, basically, if we didn't open up our relationship like this, I don't know if I could have ever touched my husband again. So the idea that being with someone else actually makes your partner more attractive is something to think about, because attraction is not, you know, it comes and goes, right? And as Kate is trying to explain their relationship, Mira is just kind of looking at her like, you can tell she feels really sorry for her friend, and she's trying to be there for her. And she doesn't really think much of Peter, like her friend's husband, as we see, like, towards the end of the dinner scene. And as they're talking about desire, Mira basically, like, rolls her eyes, right? Like, you get the sense, like, she's not that attracted to her husband, right? Like, that's kind of the energy that she was giving, right? She was saying it without saying it. And then they have this awkward moment. Like, I didn't know what to make of this kiss. Like, you guys can help me out. I thought, like, I was like, because Mira was as uncomfortable as the rest of us because it kind of came out of nowhere. Like, at first I thought it was an innocent peck, and then it just went into like a full-blown, like, I love you, girl. So you guys let me know like how you would interpret that. But listening to Mira and Kate, a lot of things are clear, right? Because Mira looks at Kate as like, you know, someone who's holding on to a relationship that should have ended a long time ago. And Kate is talking about her journey and how it's very important for her children to see their mother kind of find themselves or find herself. And so while Kate sees herself as like someone who's creating herself, Mira sees somebody who's kind of lost, right? And again, the contrast between the different characters through body language and just through like, you know, like subtle movements is really interesting. And then we get to the end of this chaotic dinner scene. And this is where like a lot of things just explode. And so we get downstairs and Peter is basically trying to justify his cheating. His logic is really interesting. He's saying basically that monogamy is unnatural. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And if you don't kind of accept, like, you're gonna go crazy. And as he's talking about their open relationship, you can see Mira looking at him like, yeah, like I'm about, like you can't tell if she's agreeing with Peter or if she's being triggered, and if she's being triggered, why is she being triggered by him? And Jonathan is totally clueless. Like, again, like when you look at everybody's body language, Jonathan is the only one that's just kind of like, you know what, you do you, but I think you're crazy. Like at one point he totally insults him by saying, you know, we're taught to conquer our desires and our impulses, whereas you're out here kind of having various relationships with random people. Like that's basically what he was saying. And Peter was not having it. And so this dinner scene ends chaotically. You know, people are kind of done with each other. Mira is done talking to these people and they're kind of like, you know, ushered out. And finally, like towards the end of the episode, we get to the root of the problem, right? So once this couple leave, Jonathan and Mira are having this conversation. And I like this bedroom scene because I think we've all had partners and you're in bed and you're talking, and the things that come out in bedroom talk is like the most vulnerable, the most, like whatever people say to you in the bedroom, like during casual conversation is what they think. Like this is the truth. If they contradict themselves afterwards, you have to assume that's a lie. So in this very, very, very like well scripted bedroom scene, we find out what's been bothering Mira, and that's that she's pregnant. And she's pregnant and she's not sure she wants to keep the baby. And so she's basically trying to ask her husband, like, are we going to keep this baby or are we going to terminate the pregnancy? And he's very like, again, like he's a very hard man to read, because at some points it seemed like he was trying to accommodate her and like be like, you know what, it's your choice. I'll do whatever makes you happy. And at some points it was like, no, we should keep the baby. You know, like he wasn't giving her a clear answer either way. And she even says that. She's like, you're not giving me a clear answer. And the reason she's not sure she wants to have this baby is I guess they had some issues with the first child. Like apparently it was hell. Based on the conversation they're having in bed, like this was a very long journey. And their experience with their first child really made them question if they want to do this again. And so by the end of this bedroom scene, I assumed that they were going to have the baby. Like that's what it felt like. But we fast forward 10 days and they're at an abortion clinic. And this threw me off. This threw me by surprise because I was like, whoa, what just happened? Like, you guys let me know. I'm like, I didn't realize how much time had gone by. But no, we realized they kind of came to the decision to have an abortion. And during this scene, you can tell that Jonathan is bothered. You know, his body language is erratic. He's coming in and out of the room. He's unsettled. Like, he's not happy with this decision. Mira, on the other hand, she seems also very unsure about what they're about to do. Like both of them, there's a lot of tension between the two of them. And once the decision is made and she takes the pill, this pretty much signals the beginning of the end, right? Because at the start of the episode, they're interviewed together, they're together, and by the end of the episode, they're apart, right? Like she asks him like, hey, can you leave so I can be alone? And this is meant to signal to us like, this is the end. Okay, so that ends the pilot episode. Overall, I thought it was very strong. I think there's a lot of very interesting conversations we can have. And again, this is the type of show that I think is fun to review because it's going to be interesting to see how everybody gets triggered by different, conversations, or how they kind of view different scenes and, contrast it to their own lives. Like, I think it'll be fun. So you guys let me know what you think, and until next time.